All right, welcome. I just want to discuss the Pastrnak trade rumors that have been going on. It's been a week now since one report came out. I forget who the reporter was, but essentially said that Pastrnak has seen the way Don Sweeney treats his friends, mostly meaning Krejci and Krug. Um, but this is one report, and to an extent, I think the internet's gone a little crazy with a potential Pastrnak trade. Um, I'm not quite sure that is in the cards, so I want to talk about it a bit because I'm still seeing all this stuff, and I feel like it's blown out of proportion to an extent. Um, so to start off, yeah, Don Sweeney let David Krejci go. A first line 1A 1B centerman. Um, just let him go. Krejci went on vacation. He came back. There was no money to re-sign Krejci, so Krejci retired because he's not going to play anywhere else. Moved back to Czechia. So no Krejci. Didn't want to re-sign Krug. Krug didn't get a mountain of money going to another team. Well, he's making like 6 or 6.5 million a year, which for Krug is pretty reasonable. He provides offense. He can quarterback your power play. He can play defense too. He's not just purely an offensive defenseman. Um, so two key pieces to the core and the team, just gone. No effort to really keep them around. But at the same time, Sweeney also gave out an 8-year, $9.5 million extension that kicks in this year. That actually hurts the cap quite a bit. So who knows what's going to happen with Bergeron. But to Charlie McAvoy, who is a great number one defenseman, but we're yet to see if he'll ever be even nominated for a Norris at this point. We don't know. Probably top 15, top 20. There's a lot of good defensemen in this league. There's a lot. And McAvoy is one of them. I don't know if he'll ever be a Norris caliber defenseman. And you also got the contract of Charlie Coyle. No trade clauses, a long-term $5.25 million contract for a third-line center. So that's like $1.5 million less than what Pastrnak makes. Pastrnak being a Maurice Richard Rocket winner, he scored the most goals in the season, tied with Ovechkin that one time. But one of the most elite goal scorers in the game. Whereas you're lucky to get 20 goals out of Charlie Coyle because he's a third-line center. So there's that. Pastrnak is also a future asset. He's currently an asset, and he has been an asset because of how skilled he is. But he's still young. He's very young. This is his first year that he'll be an unrestricted free agent at the end of next season. He's signed for one more year at $6.66 million. He's due for a pay raise. He took a discount last contract to stay with the Bruins, as did Bergeron, as did Marchand. But since then, the Coyle contract, the McAvoy contract, the Krejci lack of contract, the Krug lack of contract, there's no clear message, and there's no clear, there's really just no clear message. Are we keeping the core together? What are we doing here? Who are we giving money to, and who are we not going to pay for that are just going to get paid more elsewhere? There's no home team discount anymore at this point. Sweeney's kind of gone away with that. There was for decades, pretty much in Boston. Players would take a bit of a discount to be in Boston, to stay in Boston. Sweeney's kind of undone that since he's taken over as GM, which is kind of unfortunate. But anyway, Pastrnak right now, he's on a great contract. He's the best goal scorer on the Bruins. You can make a case for Marchand. He's a great playmaker too. So you're not going to see consistent 40 goal scorer seasons out of Marchand, whereas you are of Pastrnak. And Pastrnak can pass too, but I think pure goal scorer, Pasternak's by far the best on the Boston Bruins right now. Again, on a great contract, he's young, but Sweeney also tends to trade away the future. Every year he's trading away picks, he's trading away prospects. Vakanainen this year, Ryan Lindgren during the Rick Nash trade. It's just future pretty decent prospects are just being traded away. Pastrnak kind of fits that profile. Young, high potential. He's kind of already achieved that, but an elite goal scorer nonetheless. On a good contract, a cheap contract for another team to take. Especially a playoff contending team. I'm just saying this. It fits the profile of Sweeney to trade him, so you can't rule it out that he won't be traded. But at the same time, that's crazy because what are you left with at that point? You're left with Marchand, which is great, but he's going to miss a good portion of the season. You don't have any cap room to sign Bergeron at this point. You have $2.3 million in cap space, and Bergeron's should not play for $2.3 million or less, considering he just won the Selke Trophy. So who knows? Bergeron might retire if Sweeney pulls the same move he did with Krejci and not free up money to sign their captain. Oh my God. It still bothers me. So we'll see, but it's also kind of an issue that going into next offseason, there's still not going to be a whole lot of cap space. And you got a key piece in Jeremy Swayman you have to re-sign, and that's not going to be necessarily cheap, especially he plays similar to the way he did this year. He doesn't have to play at a Vezina Trophy caliber this year to get paid. He just has to be consistent through last year, prove he can be a starter and handle the number of games, and he's getting paid. And then because of all the bloated contracts on the Bruins, there is absolutely no space for David Pastrnak to get paid. Can't get a pay raise. And then you look at comparable contracts throughout the NHL, Kaprizov, Ovechkin, for example, kind of see what they get and what the Bruins have been shelling out. McAvoy, $9.5 million. So you would think if he stays with the Bruins should be more apt to pay him in the range of $9 to $9.5 million. If you look league wide, you can make a case for between $7.5 million up to $9.5 million. I'd probably put him at that $8.5 million range, considering it's probably what he's worth. You can make a case for $9 million. Depends if there's a bidding war. Depends who can afford him, because cap space is tight throughout the NHL. But that would also be a reason to trade David Krejci. No, not David Krejci. Pastrnak, maybe at the trade deadline. But again, you're not getting nearly enough to compete for the future. You're trading away your core. It's one of your three big pieces: Pastrnak, Marchand, Bergeron. Bergeron's either going to re-sign or retire. He's 36. He's getting up there. What's it called? Marchand, I believe, is 34. He's aging too. He's also on a very team-friendly contract. If Pasternak's gone, Bergeron's gone, I can easily see Marchand retiring at the age of 36, I believe, when his contract expires. There is your core. You don't have a core at that point. You have Charlie McAvoy, which is great, but that's it. That's your core. You got Taylor Hall, who's great, but he's still new to Boston. He hasn't worked on that first line. He needs, he can't be the primary goal scorer. It's just that hasn't worked out the past few years with him. So there's reason to trade Pastrnak, and there's probably a little unhappiness with what Pastrnak has seen throughout the management of the Bruins organization the past few years, and that's totally understandable on both ends. But at the same time, if you're Don Sweeney, it's a terrible move. You need to figure out how to keep him. You need to figure out how to give him an extension, lock him down. He's a key piece of this organization. He loves being in Boston, and he loves the fans, and the fans love him. He's a fun, exciting, genuinely nice guy who's fun to watch. It's a really nice fit in Boston for Pastrnak, and you just hope the Bruins management can figure it out. With that being said, they're starting the season off without Marchand and McAvoy for a significant chunk of time. Depending on what happens with Bergeron, they might get off to a fairly slow start. It could be, it might be a decent start. because they still have some of those key pieces, assuming they sign Bergeron, assuming the rest of the team's healthy going into the beginning of the season. But, they could also get off to a slow start, and then one would hope, as a Bruins fan, that they would let go of both Sweeney and Cam Neely. It's not working. It's sad that they made Bruce Cassidy the scapegoat. He's, again, you can only do so much with that roster. I don't think another coach is going to come into Boston and have a better record and more success than Bruce Cassidy has had in Boston. And that's no disrespect to whatever coach comes in. I think they're just given kind of a rough situation to be in. So, as a Bruins fan, we can hope that Sweeney and Neely get let go, so we don't have this whole Pastrnak scandal. We don't have this team with bloated contracts and no core, and our captain coming off probably the best defensive season in the history of the NHL, stat-wise, retiring because there's no money to sign him, because there's these bloated contracts that you can't move because there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of overpaid players that no team will take on that contract. So I don't know how realistic it is that there's an impending trade with Pastrnak. Again, I wouldn't like to see it. Even if there's not going to be a winning season, you have to find a way to make it work with Pastrnak. You have to give him hope for the future. You have to give him some type of plan. I don't know if we're going to get that from Sweeney, and it's something that wouldn't surprise me. It would be a total Sweeney move to trade Pastrnak, get like a first-round pick, and I don't know, like Mark Giordano after having a terrible season. Just add another old former captain defenseman who like is ready to retire. That's a Sweeney move. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed Pastrnak stays. I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think it's going to be a case where a lot of teams can't take on that contract, and if they can, they're probably not competitors, and it gets a little hazy. And then what's the return on that? It's got to be, you would think, a high first-round pick. You would think, but if it's a competitor, which are the teams that are likely going to pay more for Pastrnak, it's going to be a low first-round pick. You need a highly touted prospect. Do they have those? If it's a contender, and a lot of them have been perennial contenders, probably not. So what do you get in exchange for Pastrnak? And I just, overall, I don't think it'd be a smart move at this point. I get the arguments both ways, and I'm on the fence of holding Pastrnak. He's a Boston Bruin. He's someone you want to see spend their whole career in Boston, retire, have their number retired, put in the Hall of Fame as a Boston Bruin. So that's just my 2 cents. I think, the Stanley Cup hasn't even begun yet. I think we're overreacting a bit to these Pastrnak trade rumors, and I kind of want to talk about it and kind of give my opinion towards that. I think that's, personally, I'm not that excited about the Stanley Cup. I don't care for Colorado. I don't care to see Tampa in the Stanley Cup for a third time. It's remarkable, and I'm not, it should be a good Stanley Cup. I'm just not, excited to watch it. I don't really want to see either team win. I guess I'll take Tampa. I'll root for Tampa, but I don't know how much I'm going to be paying attention. So, and I think a lot of people are on that same boat. So I don't know how much is how much of a focus there is on littler articles and news and all that stuff. But here we are. So thanks for watching. That's just my take. See what happens. Again, purely as a Bruins fan, this is my take. Purely, I do a lot of analyzing of Don Sweeney, Bruce Cassidy. I've done a good analyzation of a lot of the contracts, really the team, how they play. I watch every game. So just as a very enthusiastic Bruins fan, that's my take. I don't think Pastrnak will be traded. I think it's too soon to really make a determination on that. We'll see what the future holds. Fingers crossed for now. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. If he's going to get traded, if you want him to be traded, if you think it's a good move to be traded, because you can make an argument for that too. Just be interesting to see what you guys have to say. So that's it for now. Thanks again. Take care. Catch you soon.